Hey everybody, this is your video for your 3-1 bookwork. It's page 104, numbers 1 to 25 odd, 29, 31, and 37. So to start with, we're doing some problems having to do with slope and tangent lines. Slope and tangent lines. And so on the first one, it says, use the grid and a straight edge to make a rough estimate of the slope of the curve in y units per x unit at the points P1 and P2. One weird thing about this is they're counting by point 2, because you see they're going from 0 to 1 here, and there's 5 spots in between. And so even though point 1 is easy to find, that's 0, 0, you have to look for point 2. It's in between where 1 and 1.2 is, and it's halfway, so that means it's 1.1. So this ordered pair is 1.1 comma 2. Okay, so one ordered pair, this is for P1, that's at 0, 0, and for point 2 is at 1.1 comma 2. So basically you're doing slope, so it's rise over run, and so that would be the change in y over the change in x, so that's 2 divided by 1.1. When you do that on the calculator, you get 1.81, 81, 81. So we just put 81 with a bar. So to show you that, we have, clear this out. 2 divided by 1.1, control enter, and so that's that. If I just try to make it a fraction, let's see what happens. Menu, number, fraction. That would have been 20 over 11 because you just move the decimal place over. So that's number 1. Number 3, it also has a graph. So on this one, your point 1 is right there, point 2, point 4, and then 1.1. This is point 4 comma 1.1, and this is 1.9 comma 1.3. Okay, so point 1 is 0.4 comma 1.1, and point 2 is 1.9 comma 1.3. And so for this, we want to do our slope as the change in y over the change in x. So this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So what that means is 1.3 minus 1.1 all over 1.9 minus 0.4. And so that's basically 0.2 divided by 1.4. So that is 2/14, which is 1/7. And then the decimal for that is 0.142857. So that's going to be our answer. Now, also just wanted to mention these two problems show up weird on Math Excel. I had trouble one year with the graph on it and like estimating a point exactly. And so these two are not on the Math Excel. The other thing I wanted to mention, if I didn't mention it already, was this. Okay, so for settings on your calculator, you can go to handheld setup, which is number 3, and this is where you can change your power standby to be 5 minutes. I want my pointer speed to be normal. I want my auto dim to be 5 minutes also, and I like to enable tapping to click. So that's the settings I want. So there it is, medium font and so forth. The other setting I wanted to remind you of on your document settings is to put this as float 12. Just keep everything else how it normally is with radian, normal, real, auto, on, etc. And then one more setting, if you were to graph something, let me just do a very simple graph. Sometimes you would do an intersection and only a couple of points would show up. And so make sure you have these settings. So you go menu and then these settings, and make sure you're doing float 12 also. And that's the main thing I wanted to show you as far as settings. Okay, so for number 5, this has y equal 4 minus x squared, and you have the point given for negative 1, 3. This says find an equation of the tangent line to the curve at the given point, then sketch the curve and tangent line together. Okay, so I'm going to go through this by hand first. This is very similar to a previous section. And what we're doing is we have the limit h approaches 0, f of x0 plus h minus f of x0 all over h. And so your x0 is negative 1 based on that. And so you have your limit as h approaches 0, and you put the f of x, which is the function, it's 4 minus. Now instead of x, you put x0 plus h, and in particular you plug in negative 1 for that. So you put negative 1 plus h, and then you put squared. Then the most efficient way is you already know that the y value is 3, and so you can just put 3 here. And that's going to be all over h. Now, again, this is since it was negative 1 comma 3. You don't really have to evaluate the function because you already know the answer. Okay, the next part is you're going to say 4 minus, expand this, negative 1 squared is 1, and then if you have a negative h and another negative h from the outsides and insides, that turns into negative 2h, and then plus h squared. So you're going to have that and then minus 3 all over h. So then you need to distribute negative 1, so you go 4 minus 1 plus 2h minus h squared, and then minus 3 all over h. How you know you did it right is if your numbers cancel. So 4 minus 1 is 3, and 3 minus 3 cancels. So what you're left with is 2h minus h squared over h. So then when you divide that out to each, you get 2 minus h. Now you do your limit as h approaches 0 of this, and so that would be 2 minus 0, which is 2. Okay, so that's exactly how you work it out by hand. Now, there's a more efficient way, and the better way is just on your calculator, add a graph, and you put in 4 minus x squared, press enter. There's your graph. Now, you go menu, analyze graph, so that's number 6. And then you want to do 5, which is dy dx. 5 is dy dx, which stands for derivative, and we're basically doing derivatives. Okay, and so now it asks you the position. So the position that it's asking for is -1, since x equal -1. And so where it says position, just randomly you type -1 and then press enter, and it gives you 2. And 2 was what we got by doing it by hand. So it shows 2 on the graph. So basically you can visualize it also at -1, 3, because that's the point we're interested in. At that particular point, your answer is 2. So again, you can get it. The next one, next part of this is about putting it in the slope-intercept form. So we need slope-intercept form for part B, basically. I'm going to call this part A, and this part B. So for part B, your slope-intercept form is y equal mx plus b, where this limit is what your m is. And so in place of y, we put 3 equal, and then you put 2 times x, which is -1, plus b. So you have 3 equal -2 plus b, and then we get 5. So this is y equal 2x plus 5. Now on most of these in the Math Excel, they want you to solve for y, but on some of them in the textbook, they have you use point slope form. So I'll just tell you when that comes up. One other thing is to check your answer on here. You can go in your calculator and press tab, and this is where you could say 2x plus 5. And that's what the tangent line looks like, and it only intersects where there's that 2. So to double check that, we do menu, 6 for analyze, 4 for intersection, and we go on the left side of it, click, go on the right side of it, click, and we get -1, 3. So all of that matches up with what we were expecting, because in our problem it had -1, 3. And when we did analyze graph, and we did the intersection of 4 minus x squared and 2x plus 5, that was -1, 3. So that's how you know you did it right. So I'm going to just call that the check. Okay, so there's the first couple of problems. Number 7. On this one, we have y equal 2 square root of x, and our ordered pair is 1, 2. So again, we want the slope, which is our limit, h approaches 0, f of x0 plus h minus f of x0 all over h. And so in this case, x0 is 1, f of x0 is 2. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is put in our function. So let me go ahead and be very explicit. x0 plus h would be 1 plus h. Okay. All right, so here we have the slope is the limit, h approaches 0, of the function, which is 2 square root of x. But instead of x, we put 1 plus h. And then you're going to say minus, we already know the f of x0 is 2. Okay. And then this is over h. So the next thing we want to do, again, there's a quick way and there's a calculator way. I'm going to show you the work that I wrote out before a different year, and then I'll show you how to check it on the calculator. So I'm going to show the work from the other spiral, then the calculator. Okay, so basically this. Okay, so when I did minus 2 square root of 1, that's really minus 2. And so what we're doing is we're factoring out a 2. And then from there, we're going to multiply by the conjugate, and then start canceling terms, and then get m as 1. So I guess I'll write this out. This would be factor out a 2. So we have 2 times the square root of 1 plus h minus 1 over h. Then we want to multiply by the conjugate. So the conjugate relates to the square root part. And so you're going to put the square root of 1 plus h, and then you change this minus to a plus 1. And the reason why these have to be identical is because you're multiplying by 1, which is in the form of this expression over this expression. So the whole purpose of this is to multiply these and take away your square root. That's the whole point. Okay, so we're just going to keep this little 2 factored out, and then we're going to have 1 plus h, because that's first times first. Then you're going to do outside times outside, inside times inside, and they cancel, which is another thing that we want. So this was to get rid of the square root and to cancel middle terms. Okay, And then we do our last times last, and we get minus 1. And then this is going to be over h times that. Now, don't distribute this on bottom. The reason is because in most of the problems, you're able to cancel something out. Okay, so first off, at our next step, we would have 1 minus 1 cancels. And so then we have 2h over h square root 1 plus h plus 1. Okay, so then our h's cancel, and we get 2 over square root 1 plus h plus 1. Now what we want to do is our limit as h approaches 0, so this would actually turn into 2 over square root of 1 plus 0 plus 1. So this is 2 over 1 plus 1, 2 over 2, which is 1. So we did all that work to get 1. Again, that's how you do it by hand. On the calculator, you'd probably just want to do it this way. 2 square root of x, enter, and then go menu, analyze, dy dx, and the position is 1, and then your answer is 1. So again, that's how you can check your answer. So m equal 1 because of that. Okay, and then we have y equal mx plus b. So this would be the y is 2, the m is 1, the x is also 1 plus b, so we get 2 equal 1 plus b, and so you get 1 equal b, which means you get y equal x plus 1. Just as a reminder also, you could have used the point-slope formula. This is the slope-intercept, this is your point-slope. So this would have been y minus 2 equal 1 times x minus 1. Y minus 2 equal x minus 1, and then add 2, y equal x plus 1. So you end up getting the same answer either way. And again, if you graph x plus 1, there it is, and you analyze the graph and do the intersection, and you get 1, 2. That's how you know you did it right. Okay, the next one, number 9. On this one we have y equal x cubed, and the ordered pair we're given is -2, -8. So again, we're going to do the limit h approaches 0, f of x0 plus h minus f of x0 all over h. That gets us -2 plus h cubed minus a -8 all over h, because that's her value. So now when you're cubing this function, I like to do that separate. Expand your cube. So what I do is I put -2 plus h times -2 plus h squared. And so when I square this, I get 4 minus 4h plus h squared. Now you have to take the multiply negative 2 times everything, so you get negative 8 plus 8h minus 2h squared plus 4h minus 4h squared plus h cubed. And then you want to combine your like terms and reorganize it. So h cubed is first, and then these are your h squared terms, and so you get minus 6h squared. Then you have 8h plus 4h is 12h, and then you have minus 8. So that's what you get when you expand your cube. And so this part goes up here, h cubed minus 6h squared plus 12h minus 8, and then this is plus 8. Again, that's how you know you did it right, if that cancels. Now we're going to divide h by every single one, so we have h squared minus 6h plus 12. And now do the limit h approaches 0 of all of that, and so you just get 12. So 12 is your answer. That's what we call part A. Okay, so for the graph, if you just do x cubed, x up arrow 3, and then we do menu, analyze, dy dx, our position is negative 2, and that gives you the answer 12. So that's how you know you did it right. Okay, then we're going to do, for part B, y equal mx plus b, and you put negative 8 equal 12 times negative 2 plus b, and then just work that out. And so you get 16 equal b, so y equal 12x plus 16. And again, to double check that, press tab and do 12x plus 16. It looks like it's right, and then when we do the intersection, we should end up getting the ordered pair negative 2, negative 8. And we do. Okay, so that's number 9. Now, another thing I wanted to mention before I go on is just on numbers 5 to 10, we were supposed to graph these, and I did this on the calculator. I showed everybody the graph, and you also need to graph it on Math Excel. Another difference is on number 11 to 18 in the book, there's no graph, and so that's why they put it in point slope form. The other thing that's kind of weird is in Math Excel, still use slope-intercept form. So that's why this is going to be a little different. Okay, so we did 9, here's 11. So on number 11, we have f of x equal x squared plus 1, and the point is 2, 5. We're doing the limit h approaches 0, f of x0 plus h minus f of x0 all over h. And so this is going to be x squared plus 1. So this is going to be something squared plus 1. And in place of x0, we put 2, and then we put plus h. So 2 plus h squared plus 1, then minus our 5 all over h. So now we expand the quadratic through FOIL, and so do 4 plus 4h plus h squared plus 1 minus 5 all over h. And then you can see where this is going. 4 plus 1 is 5, minus 5 cancels. And so then you're going to do 4h plus h squared over h and get 4 plus h. Then the limit h approaches 0 of that just cancels this, and so you get 4. So again, that's how you do it on paper. In the calculator, you just type x squared plus 1, and then go Menu, Analyze, dy dx, and put in 2, and it shows you your answer is 4. So that's how you know you did it right. And then for the next part, we need y minus y1 equal m times x minus x1. So that's going to be y minus 5 equal 4 times x minus 2. So that's the point slope form. And I'm also going to show you the slope-intercept form. This would be 4x minus 8. And so you get y equal 4x minus 3. So if you were to graph these two, they would have overlapped. I'm going to use this as a time to press delete and graph a relation. That's going to be y minus 5 equals 4 parentheses x minus 2. When you graph a relation, then you don't have to solve for y. Okay, so there it is. I can even double check one more time by doing 4x minus 3. Whoops, I need to change this back. To change it back, you press Menu, Graph Entry, and then Function. And then I'm going to put 4x minus 3. And so there it made it red, and now it's purple because it overlapped, because red and blue is purple. So that's how you know it's all right. So this is the slope intercept. Okay, our next one is number 13. And on this one we have g of x equal x over x minus 2, and the point we're interested in is 3, 3. Again, we do the same steps. Limit h approaches 0, f of x0 plus h minus f of x0 all over h. And so this is our x0, this is our f of x0. So your function looks like x, which is 3 plus h in this case, over 3 plus h minus 2. So it's that, and then minus, you know f of x0 already is 3. And then this is all over h. Okay, so think of this as x over x minus 2, and then minus 3 all over h. Okay, so let's simplify this. 3 plus h over 1 plus h minus 3 all over h. Now, at this step, what you want to do is get a common denominator. Of 1 plus h. And so that means up here we need to multiply by 1 plus h, and right there. So basically think of distributing this. You don't multiply it to the bottom also, but when we do this, we get 3 plus h minus 3 times 1 plus h all over 1 plus h, and then divide by h. Okay, so you want to distribute, so this is 3 plus h minus 3 minus 3h all over 1 plus h over h, and then this and this cancel. H minus 3h is negative 2h over 1 plus h over h. This is where you have your negative 2h over 1 plus h and then over h. You're going to want to do this divide by 1 and multiply this to get your extremes and multiply this to get your means. So this is negative 2h times 1 over h times 1 plus h. And then this cancels, and so you get negative 2 over 1 plus h. Now we set h approaching 0, so this would be negative 2 over 1, and so you get negative 2, and that's your slope. Okay, so that's your answer to part A. For part B, I'm going to do that up here. We have y minus y1 equal m times x minus x1. So that would be y minus 3 equal negative 2 times x minus 3. So that's your point slope form. And then your other form would have been y equal negative 2x plus 9. So again, either of these. This is what the book would have wanted. This is what Math Excel would want. You know, this part. Okay, so let's check our answer. So we're going to graph it, and we put x over parentheses x minus 2. There's our graph. It's a rational function, vertical asymptote 2, horizontal asymptote 1, because of the x over x. And we do dy dx at position 3, and we get a negative 2. So negative 2 is your slope. And then when we do our graph, negative 2x plus 9, that's what the tangent line looks like. I really do like how this graphs, and you can see how it touches, because you know it can't always be a positive slope. Sometimes it's a negative slope, like that. Okay, so there's number 13. That's a good stopping point for this video.